Hey, what happened to all the cold openings? You may not have ever heard of the developer Magnetic Fields, but maybe you've heard of the Lotus franchise from the days of the Sega Genesis. During that same time period, Magnetic Fields were making Lotus games for the Genesis and other consoles more popular in Europe. They brought some of that European racing flavor to the NES with supercars. If you purchased the game at a certified retailer, you could be entered to win a 1991 Nissan SE V6 King Cab 4x4 truck. Buy supercars, get a super truck instead. Alright, let's see what's up. I'll admit to not knowing a ton about cars, but you can choose between 3 pretty neat ones reminiscent of real cars of the time. Each one has a pretty sweet name too, like the Tarraco Neorder Turbo, the Vogue Interceptor Turbo, and the Retron Parsec Turbo, which correlate to the Alfa Romeo SZ, the Honda NSX, and the Suzette Marauder V16T respectively. Are all the car nerds happy now? So in this top view racing game, similar in style to Tengen's Super Sprint, your goal is to complete a season of 9 races. You obviously want to win as many as you can or place near the top to earn more money so you can upgrade. Each race you win nets you about 20,000 bucks, and it scales down from there, but if you don't finish in the top 3, the game is completely over. No continues, no second chances. Yeah, it's one of those. Interestingly, the tracks in your season can be completed in any order, though they scale up in difficulty the further down the list you go. Added difficulty comes in the way of obstacles on the track like oil slicks, faster opponents, and more turns. When you first start the game, you'll notice the cars aren't so super, and in fact are painfully slow in terms of high speed and maneuvering, but remember, earning money will give you the opportunity to upgrade your car at the garage. Here in the garage, you'll first want to refill your gauges on things like fuel, body, engine, and tires, or else you'll crap out in the middle of your next race, so it's extremely important to go to the garage between each race. You can also upgrade some alternatives like your power steering, your turbo, your ammo, etc. And yeah, you can get some ammo. You can buy a front or rear missile to shoot at opponents, but you can only use one per race, so aim responsibly. You can also get things like spin assist, which will prevent the car from tailing into an uncontrollable skid, which tends to happen frequently when you drive over oil patches. You can also grab more armor for your vehicle since you smack the walls in other vehicles constantly. My biggest complaint with the game is the repetitive environs. Each track, while laid out differently, looks mostly the same, and the features are terribly bland. It's all straightaways and right angles. For a game that came out in 1990, about 3 years after the aforementioned Super Sprint, it didn't really expand much on the racing aspect of things. In fact, I think I still prefer the tiny vehicles and single-screen tracks of Super Sprint over the hyper-zoomed-in, hard-to-maneuver and passing frustrations of supercars. Not to mention, you get hung on walls constantly, and most of the time it doesn't even look like you're touching them. That's probably the biggest aggravation in the whole thing. However, sticking with it and reaping the rewards of the paychecks do improve the experience some. Getting faster vehicles and upgrades do help the game's fun factor, though the variety of tracks and atmosphere never improve. Graphically, the game reminds me a little of Motor City Patrol I reviewed earlier this year, meaning it's not bad, but just repetitive and boring like everything else in the game. Needless to say, there are better times to be had if you want to go fast on the NES. There was actually a sequel to Supercars released a year later, but it didn't come to the NES. Supercars 2 released on MS-DOS, Atari ST, and Amiga. That game improved on most of my complaints about the first, with a variety of environs, better visuals, and hey look, a 45-degree angle. Well, that does it for Supercars on the NES. As always, don't drive into walls, and thanks for watching.